It's the beginning of a week, a beautiful Monday, and we are going to do yet again another Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question. Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformer Slag Patreon, let us know that we're doing a good job, help support the podcast, and join the Patreon crew. Check out the description below, patreon.com/protoman. What do you get with Patreon? Where you get your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment moving forward after your initial patronage. Get access to the Patreon-only Transformer Slag Discord. Our Discord is pretty awesome. We talk about a lot of insider content, deals, and of course a lot of the news breaks first on our Discord. Of course, best of all, we also have, if you're part of the higher tier member, you get a little gift in the mail, something cool from that of the Transformer Slag Podcast HQ. We have a little gift box that we send out to the higher tier patrons. And of course, most importantly, the Patreon listener question, where you get to ask a question here live on the podcast. So, we got a question here from our longtime patron, Massive Gains. This is a good one. I like this one because it's something that also the listeners could chime in on too, and I like questions like these. Massive Gains wants to know, is there any Transformer characters that you go out of your way to collect over others? I know that you're a big Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime stan. I keep hearing that term. I guess it means you're a big fan. Maybe I'm out of touch with that. But is there any others you've mentioned in the past that you really like? I know that you've said you love G1 Minibots and some other characters. For me, to keep my wallet heavy, I like to focus on gears, be it G1 or any other version. Yeah, definitely keep your wallet heavy. That's important. Domo arigato for the amazing content you've been doing. It's been really helpful during all this downtime during, well, he's the big V. He wrote something else, but you guys know what he's talking about. Massive Gains. Well, thank you, Massive Gains, for the Patreon listener question, being part of the Patreon for this amazing podcast that we work on tirelessly. So, characters that I go out of my way to collect. Well, you know what, for the longest, well, actually, I want to go to what you said here. So you said you collect gears to keep your wallet heavy. I want to just say I have a friend in the fandom, and I remember back in the day, and I want to say like it was like 2006, 2005. He used to joke about how he loves Bludgeon, and he collects all the Bludgeon figures. And at the time that he said that, I used to, the joke was because I think Bludgeon only had 2 figures. He had like his original Generation 1 figure, and then he had his Hero Megatron repaint from Robots in Disguise in 2001, and that was it. That was like it for Bludgeon. He used to say, "Oh, it makes my life easy." And now it's obviously it's a different world today for my buddy. Shout out to Aeronoth from the TFW 2005 message boards. But yeah, so so obviously some characters, if you're a fan of, you might end up being lucky, and there's maybe only 3 or 4 versions of them. And when that 5th version comes out every 3 years, you have something you could pick up. And I'll tell you one thing, it's definitely one way to make your collecting a lot easier. And Gears is definitely one of them. You probably, outside of let's say those early McDonald's 1985 promotions, a lot of Gears product is pretty easy to get. Even obviously if you don't dip into third party and stuff from an official capacity, that's pretty much it. There's not a lot. It's maybe probably about less than 12 figures. But yeah, for me, yeah, like you mentioned, Hot Rod Rodimus Prime, I've gone out of my way. I'm the kind of person that, like I said, I always wait for sales. I always wait for stuff to go on special. I don't rush to buy a lot of product because a lot of stuff inevitably goes down after a certain period between 2 weeks to 6 weeks, especially with stuff like Walmart. But that being said, when it comes to characters that I really enjoy, those are ones where I kind of pull the trigger even at full price, Hot Rod Rodimus Prime being one of them, 100%. Even when he was, we had 2 leader class Hot Rod Rodimus Primes with Power of the Primes, and that was, here's me who's like, man, I usually wait for leader classes, but I want to get that's for sure. And Cyberverse, man, there was a lot of he got a lot of love in that line. Even though he was more of a featured character in late season 2, early season 3, but he got quite a bit of figures. And someone like me who sometimes likes to buy 2 of characters I like, oof, that's going to add up fast. But other ones, you know what? I've said this again, like you mentioned, I love G1 mini-bots. Like, I really like Brawn. Brawn has always been a personal favorite. He's always reminded me like the Wolverine of the Transformer team in a lot of ways, just because he's just this short little, fireball of energy. Really dig him a lot. Cliffjumper's another one too. But I've always leaned on, like, my top 3 has always been Hot Rod Rodimus Prime. I count that as one character. Nitro Convoy and Road King. And those the other two, Nitro Convoys had the one Galaxy Force release, the Black Evil repaint from eHobby, and a Kabaya figure. And then after that, it's a matter of buying Override repaints, which aren't really Nitro Convoy, but I kind of count that just for the sake of it because of the mold. And I'm trying to think of what else there really was. There's not much. There really isn't. I have a bootleg too that I got recently. And that was kind of a selling point, was when I bought that bootleg collection, it had the Nitro Convoy bootleg in it. But and then of course Road King, just the one figure. So there's certain female characters, I guess. Minerva, I'll probably pick everything up of hers that shows up, but I fall on the obscure characters. So I'm kind of like you, where I got the heavy wallet, at least, where if I'm going to be collecting those, it's going to save me some money by choosing those characters, unless of course you want to buy the very first Minerva toy. That's gonna be a that's gonna be a $2,000 starter. But either way, I think that another thing too is because I was an insane completist at one point in my life. At one point, like, I still want to own everything. Like, anytime I get a Transformer toy I don't have, it's gonna stay with me. But there was one point where I was like buying everything brand new right away, 100% completist mentality, up until about 2011, 2012. And it's just when you do that, you pretty much ended up amassing complete collections of characters, whether you like it or not. Like, someone could be like, oh man, like, I really like collecting Blitzwings. And I'll be like, yep, probably have just as many Blitzwings as you, whether I like it or not, just because of being a completist throughout the years. And, I've gone back now and started refocusing on more vintage stuff and everything that I've missed, like in terms of the obscure, whether it be decoys from Japan or oddball merchandise. Everyone sees once in a while I get something in the mail from, vintage Japanese Beast Wars. It's amazing what we could say Beast Wars is vintage at this point. 25-year-old brand. Whew, there's kids that were 1 year old when that thing came out that are fans now that watch my stuff. So that being said, it's something that if you're gonna be a collector on a budget, focusing on your favorite character really is a easy way to do it. I know that me personally, I used to collect early, I want to say like 1995, I started collecting Star Wars toys as an early teen, and it was mostly vintage Star Wars, like the old figures, the 5-point of articulation, and once in a while I'd dive into some of the newer figures. And of course, by the time 95, 96 came around, Power of the Force and then Star Wars toys just exploded. Collecting them was out of the question. There was just way too much product, and being a Star Wars collector today, forget about it. There's just too much. So I kind of pivoted and started focusing on just kind of my favorite characters and just picking them up when that was even, like, oh, I like Boba Fett. And, back then Boba Fett would get a figure maybe once in a while. Now, Mandalorian. But yeah, back then I'd be able to just focus on my favorite characters then instead. And now I just pretty much once in a while, if I see a cool Jedi Knight Luke figure, which is Luke in the black garb, green lightsaber, I'll pick that up once in a while. Once in a while, Hasbro does like a nice little Jedi Knight Luke, updates that mold. But yeah, that being said, I kind of do that just now with a lot of the smaller lines that I don't want to say I collect, I just kind of have interest in. Like, let me think of another one, like a Kinniku Man, Ultimate Muscle. I really like Robin masks, so I kind of just pick up those when I see them. or any time I get a cool Wolverine figure. I have pretty big sizable Marvel stuff, but still, like, I'm Canadian, so by law I have to get Wolverine figures, I guess. But yeah, again, it's probably the safest way for your wallet to collect is to focus on your favorite characters, and really that's about it, instead of just throwing out the net and picking up anything that comes out. And it's the smart way to do it. I do agree with that. Obviously, like, when it comes to Beast Wars, which is my favorite Transformer series, so many characters in that show resonate with me, and I love so many of them. I think there's not a single character on that show that I hate. There's characters that are just more interesting than others, but there's not a single character on that show I hate. And anytime any toy of any of those characters happen, I'm intrigued, and that's why Kingdom is going to just murder me. It's going to absolute murder me on the wallet, and that's why I've been kind of like, Wave 1 Kingdom, I've been waiting. I've been literally just waiting it out, and that's just been the safest bet for me, just because, like, otherwise with this new MSRP price point and stuff, it's going to make me poor very quickly. So yeah, that, again, just to, like, again, re-answer your question, definitely Hot Rod, Rodimus Prime, Brawn, Beast Wars characters, mini bots like Huffer and Brawn. Trying to think of some others. Again, like Nitro Convoy and Road King, like I said before, that's my top 3. If they ever do another Star Saber or anything, which that's kind of been on the, I love Star Saber. If they ever did anything with, like, most Victory guys, in all honesty. I'm just trying to turn my head here. But no, it's, there's the odd GoBot character homage once in a while. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it that, even though, like, some people are hot and cold about the Transformers Earthrise Netflix series, it had a GoBot character in it, in Bug Bite. So that's kind of nutty when you think about it. But yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, people have seen my collection. It's a lot to take in. So there's so much, but there is a little bit of a logic to the insanity in a lot of ways, and there is certain characters that I pick up more than others. So let me know who you think is a character that you kind of prioritize and focus on more than others. That's what I like about Massive Gain's question here, is just it gives a little bit of an interactivity, and the listeners too could also share who they kind of collect. And don't say Bumblebee, because heaven help you. Heaven help you if it's a Bumblebee or Optimus Prime or Megatron. I guess those must be brutal for those people. Starscream collectors too, I guess, to an extent. Some of the other Legendary 7 are a little lesser. Grimlocks are a little more modest and stuff, but all the others, good golly. But yeah, so thanks again for the kind words and the awesome listener question, Massive Gains. And if you want to be part of the Patreon, much like Massive Gains over here, patreon.com/Protoman, or check the description below. And come join us here on the Patreon. Come join us on the Discord. Rock out, chill, and be part of the awesomeness that is the world of Transformers. And take care of yourself, everyone, in these crazy times that we have here today.